Okay, we appear to be live on YouTube. Welcome, YouTubians, to our meeting of the OpenJS Foundation Standards Working Group. We've got a smaller group today, no big deal. We start with announcements as usual. Announcements for today. Anybody got any hot news from, the world or from their project at least?
I mean, TC39 was last week, so a bunch of things happened. A few proposals got stage 4, a few proposals got stage 1, and pipeline operator got stage 2. I think that's, yeah, there you go. Hemant's link is a good summary.
We'll pop that into the notes. All right, so things to celebrate then. Advancements. Congrats to everybody who had their work move forward. And thank you, Hemant, for the recaps as always. They're very helpful.
And Hemant, if you once you publish those, give me a shout and we can tweet them out. We can still do that as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I normally run them through Jordan. So yeah, he also gives a quick review and says, hey, that looks fine, or maybe I've missed something. So thank you to Jordan as well.
Cool.
Awesome. Other news or cool happenings? There's a book club meeting today at 3 p.m. I'm super excited to talk about braiding sweet grass with Michael Champion, and also how to do nothing, which, as I've said many times, is like pretty much right up my alley. So join us at 3 Eastern, so in just about 2 hours, if you want to chat about books.
Also, we have the Web Directions conference happening from 17th. A lot of interesting talks, and I think it's one of the very first PWA only conference, like a lot of PWA talks and great speakers and awesome content. I'm also speaking in that, like just like running through the Web Almanac chapter of PWA, going through the stats and graphs. It's a nice conference.
That's cool. When is your talk?
It will be aired in 3 different time zones. So it's kind of distributed from 17th to, I think, 24th is when it's running. So it's been distributed among those time zones. And
cool. Was there something else? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
no.
you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I will have to check this out. All right, other conferences, other things, upcoming meetings. The W3C has its next AC office hours next Tuesday. So if there's anything y'all want to bring up or suggest, or ideas or things like that with our peers at W3C, that office hours is coming up on Tuesday the 14th. That's one thing. And of course, W3C is also gearing up for TPAC in October, which is going to be here before we know it. So if you're interested in either attending or getting involved in any of like the developer meetings that come on with TPAC, let us know, because be sure to share that agenda too with y'all as it comes out. Anything else from W3C, Mike, that I'm missing? Probably not right immediately, but all right, cool. All right, that's a lot of announcements. That moves us into our agenda, which is really pretty much just focused on the on the web resource project. That's kind of the hot topic. Last week we covered the brief that Creative Services asked us to fill out together, and we kind of added to that and suggested that we give ourselves basically the couple weeks between meetings to reflect, make any additional suggestions, and then if we liked how it went, we would just send it back on over to them. So I guess let me start by asking if there were any additional comments or notes to add to that. I'll pull it up for us really quick, realizing it's in the other issue, so I can pull that up for Robin real fast. We can do one more looky-loo. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, should be, let me pop it in the Zoom chat real quick for you. So Zoom chat's got the link there. Yeah, and so we were really kind of focusing our time last week on, 2 weeks ago, on the audiences we want to hit first, and also kind of identifying where, what sort of that unique angle is. And just to recap from that conversation, we tended to lean more toward the folks who are advanced enough in their careers to sort of be able to maybe be specializing and maybe then be part of interest groups like ARIA, who have very specific concerns and want to kind of get involved in the standardization process in order to help give voice to those concerns and make an impact. But those folks may not have the knowledge or the framework of standardization to help them be as successful as they want to be, and may not have all of the knowledge to understand like what's in scope for one specification, but not in scope, what is and isn't in scope. So that was our sort of primary target for the MVP. Yeah, and then magnetic ideas wise, we had a great conversation about the danger of over communicating that standards can be fun, because it's not always like, lots of people find it fun, but it is like the goal in and of itself is not to have fun, it's to like make an impact. And so that was actually quite useful, so that the magnetic idea was sort of redrafted from a fun and enjoyable angle to something that's a little bit more concretely rewarding, if not challenging. So those are, if I am not mistaken, the ideas that we kind of summarized last time. Hemant, I don't know if you were part of that too, and if there's anything else you want to add to that. And
yeah, so previously we had this thought of talking to the designers and kind of getting a landing page design. We thought it made sense to have a landing page and then have a link that would have links to posts or useful resources. And also over the long weekend, looked like Derek did some research on what could our landing page look like. On the Slack, there is a thread that he initiated where it's just an ideation phase, but he had like few many ideas on what the landing page could be. but I'm not really sure if we were able to talk to the designers from the other streams, if and check if they were available and if they had any ideas for the landing page.
So just to summarize really briefly, the LF Creative Services team, we sent a request for support. They want to get started first on sort of like the brand identity, and then move from that into the other aspects of the project, which would be, like the layout and stuff like that. I do think that those things can happen in parallel if we have community support to do it. But their first step is going to be to help us with that brand component. And then we can pull them in additionally for the page and stuff. They did also share with me, because of their current balance, they are probably not going to be able to have stuff for us to really evaluate till a little bit later in the month because of other projects on their docket. But I think that's fine. We're still fleshing out our core objectives. So I think we're fine.
Yeah.
So that's just a quick recap. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would hope to have a placeholder landing page and get the rest of the things in place, sorted out. And then once the landing page design arrives, we could just bake it and make it live.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I think we all agree that, perfect is enemy of done, and we don't want to necessarily overly overcomplicate things, overshoot, but rather start with something that we can expand on and grow. But that said, this sort of like first step of making sure we all agree on the audience, for example, helps us make sure that the content that we're curating is applicable to that audience and that we have stuff that answers their questions.
Definitely.
Cool. Anything else anybody would add to this brief? If not, I will send it back to the designers.
I would just say, based on my experience, they move very fast. And so, yeah, the more specificity we can give them, the better. Unless, because then they can more iterate on one idea. That's really great, that we feel like we have a vision for, as opposed to like throwing mud on the wall for a variety of things. So, yeah.
I think just the doc description would make it pretty overwhelming for the designers to kind of get the crux of the idea. And I'm sure we are probably, some of us would probably meet the designers and talk to them, and that would give them clarity.
That's part of what they want to do, I think, is a next step once we send this back, is to have a brief call. Maybe they can come to our standards meeting, or we can get, a smaller group of folks who are available to come talk with them. But that's part of their process for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So this is the brief then. And if we're good, we'll send it back and set that time to chat and rock and roll there. That feels good. Okay. All right. So I guess the other thing, and I know this a lot happened over the weekend, the holiday weekend, but there was some updates in Slack. Manthi, you were just sharing on the page layout itself. It sounds like we've had one of our community members kind of come and add some thoughts and some ideas in terms of shaping that. Related to the information architecture, we also talked about this format last week, and talked about whether we wanted to kind of start to adopt that as just a useful structure moving forward. And I'll see if I can quickly find this again in Slack just to refresh everyone's memories, but there was a system that the Django project used to kind of break down documentation into a quadrant, which I personally thought was just very, very, very helpful. And I thought it could be useful for us to maybe like use this on a basic level just to get started. So I just dropped it into our Zoom chat here. But it basically says, okay, you know, thinking about your readers, what are their goals? Is their goal to like really get deeper context? Is their goal to just like learn the procedure for how to do something? And kind of using that user goal-based approach, break things down into either a tutorial, a how-to guide, a discussion, or a reference material. And I thought that was very, very useful, and that it would be potentially very helpful as we adopt and add new content to our site, that we tag it. Okay, this is a, you know, a discussion item. This is a reference item. This is a tutorial.
That layout kind of reminded me of Doxorus. I just pasted the link in the chat. So that tool kind of helps us to create a similar structure like what you showed in the Django documentation. So it also gives us the landing page, and you can scroll off from the landing page and it takes you directly to the documentation page where you have the sidebar with search, and it can be tagged into categories, and you could click on those and it will reflect the resources related to that. Just bringing it up, it doesn't mean that this is the right candidate, but a potential one for sure.
I like Docusaurus a lot, actually. That's I have a friend of mine who actually works on Docusaurus, and hence I'm a fan. But I also saw it as being maybe not necessarily like, I also kind of thought, well, we should do 11T or a framework like Docusaurus, not like both, because it seems unnecessary to do both. But that's my 2 cents.
Absolutely, yeah. If we all vote for this, we could kill 11T and just use this. But yeah, we can discuss further on what our use case would really. But we are not really sure where it's going to evolve, right? So 11T kind of gives us that flexibility to have our own design and keep changing it as we progress. But with Docusaurus, we're kind of we just have that base template that's there, right? We can extend, but bit of an effort. So just a potential candidate there.
I think also Docusaurus would be a great choice if at some point we're authoring our own content, which is at the moment not something that's on the schedule, but could be. Like, we could make that a later goal to have articles that this group supplies. But that would be a reason to go with Docusaurus, as if we thought, or some other type of platform like that. Trying not to be biased toward things. Yeah, that also kind of requires people to have like bandwidth to author such material. Any other thoughts on Docusaurus or the documentation system? Are we okay kind of proceeding with at least some basic concepts of like tagging? And that will be another sort of thing as we start to get new pieces of material in. How do we categorize? And that could be a whole topic for discussion at a future call. It's just like, okay, let's go through all the list of materials that we have so far as this. How do we categorize it?
And I would like to opt it to be more like how dev.to is, like anybody could come and suggest and add content to it, or probably it could also be a simple edit this page link, which kind of takes us to the GitHub repository for that particular markdown file, and folks can edit or add more links.
Yeah, my preference would be if people want to add content to the site, at least for like MVP, open an issue or open a PR and say, add such and such reference. And like, let's just do it that way to get started, and then maybe add things like commenting or additional context for that resource later. Because if I understand like kind of correctly, this isn't necessarily about duplicating that content on our site. It's about providing a link to that content, from our site to the host.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, it sounds like there's probably no more. We're happy with that framework for now. We can kind of keep evaluating as this goes on, sticking with DocuStore or sticking with 11T or moving to something that allows us to do a little bit more later. We have the creative services brief that we'll send off. I don't know. I mean, what else on this particular project at the moment do we feel we want to dive into? Because I think we've finally kind of got it very action focused, which is awesome. Unless there's more stuff and there's more content that people have found recently, which is always possible.
I think the first question I asked when I came back is, what's the brand? Is WIST the code name, or, not clear? That may be a question for creative service is the first thing they'll ask as well,
Yeah, right now it feels like it's the idea and it's the name that we got most excited about, but it still may not be like the right thing. And I think, even in Slack, Derek had suggested something that was a little bit more concrete, which is a lot, at least more useful to people who are not us.
I know, who didn't watch that fun YouTube channel. Right. Yeah, so something more descriptive, right? So maybe we just need even a holding name for when it's initially designed. So
yeah, I think I'm leaning more toward we pick something that's very descriptive, but like there's something in the brand that's a nod to like the creative part, and the ideas that we liked and responded well to here were, the idea that this is a resource for growth, it's a resource for education, and so sort of like the gardening analogy was good, but we don't need to like go all in on that gardening theme.
Sounds good.
All right. So I think that's it on this topic. I have a somewhat long-standing to do to wrap up 142, which was still tagged on the agenda, but I meant to take it off. So unless there's other business today, I think we're probably good. Unless any other business? Shaking the head no. Okay. In which case, we'll remind everyone to go check out Hemant's notes that summarize all of the excitement from the last TC39 meeting just of last week, so fresh off the presses. So give that a look. Also encourage you, if you're watching today and you're interested in this kind of stuff, join us in our Slack channel, and you too could pontificate on what we name this website, which is our favorite pastime, and get, of course, updates on things like the office hours or other standards related events that are coming up. But and also on Hemant's talk that will be coming up soon. So I think that's all I got. Anything else, y'all?
I think